Hi, Dave Jeck here, Superintendent of Fauquier County Public Schools, with a video update. This update comes on the heels of Monday's school board meeting, at which time I recommended to the school board that Fauquier County Public Schools return to uh, face-to-face instruction for all students beginning March 15th for grades K through 2 and potentially get grades K through 5. And then a return for all students K through 12 by April 5th. This is going to be a rather long update, and I apologize if you don't have time to watch the whole thing. We will be providing notes so that you can, at your leisure, sort of read up on what's shared here today. So I'm going to be reading from this document, and I'll try to move quickly, but be thorough. So we've first and foremost, we've always been committed to getting all students back for face-to-face instruction as soon as it is safely possible to do so. So we're excited to move forward with this. It was a very good meeting on Monday. There was full board support for us moving to more face-to-face instruction. What I proposed was face-to-face instruction on Monday and Tuesday, and then Thursday and Friday for students beginning March 15th. As I mentioned, it would be pre-K and possibly pre-K through 2 and potentially pre-K through 5 beginning on the 15th. I'll explain a little more about that in just a minute. And as I mentioned, beginning April 5th, 6 through 12, or potentially 3 through 12. It's just going to depend on survey results. I propose that Wednesday remain asynchronous days, and that's for several reasons. That gives us a chance to do more thorough cleaning as we've been doing of buildings. It also will provide an opportunity for students who remain virtual to connect with teachers on those Wednesdays, and it also provides additional planning time for teachers who have been working their tails off, and we're asking teachers and staff to pivot again, and that's another reason why I think we need to keep Wednesday an asynchronous day. Timing. So why are we doing this now? Well, there's several reasons. One, the vaccine program for our staff has been aggressive, and VDH and the local epidemiologists have been fantastic. At this point, we have about 60% of our staff who received the first dose. The goal is to have 80% of our staff be vaccinated first and second dose by March 15th. We feel like this is a real possibility. We're going to move forward with this. We're working with the county in terms of the additional vaccination site in Warrenton, and more information will be provided to staff in the coming weeks about when they can go, when they can sign up, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to move forward with that. The other reason is there has been a downward trend within our community in regards to those COVID metrics that we've been talking about. So we are trending in the right direction. Now, we need to continue to trend in that direction between now and March 15th, and I explained that to the board. We need that trend to continue in order to make this happen, and that's going to require us to work together, and it's going to require the community in general to really stay focused on adhering to mitigation strategies. Also, what we have determined and what has been showed through VDH, our local epidemiologist, Pam Trude, who handles school health safety programs, etc. The in-school transmission has been extremely low, from staff to staff, from student to student, from staff to student, etc. It's been extremely low. The vast majority of COVID positive cases and subsequent needs for quarantine actually are as a result of trace tracking occur outside of the school, and but obviously in instances where they make their way into school, we've had to quarantine students, et cetera, et cetera. But the in-school transmission's been extremely low. And I think that's as a result of teachers, staff, students being really great about sticking to the mitigation plans and sticking to the mitigation strategies, and a tribute to our custodians and the hard work that they've done to keep our schools clean. So hats off to them. But those are some reasons why we're in the place we are now. Um, a gradual return, which I referenced a minute ago with the March 15th for K2, or potentially, I keep saying K, pre-K2 or pre-K5 on March 15th, and then potentially a pre-K through 12 on April 5th. Here's the rationale, some of the rationale. The kids who are experiencing the greatest learning loss are the students in elementary grades. They are the ones, specifically students pre-K through 2, through pre-K through 2nd grade. They're the ones who are experiencing the greatest learning loss, and we feel, and they're much less likely, by the way, to get sick. So we feel like we need to bring those kids back first. We need to address their needs first. Also, the rationale for a gradual return is we want to see what obstacles lie ahead, and this has been sort of the way things have gone for the last several months to a year. It's using our experiences with students returning to school to determine what mitigation strategies need to change, what processes and procedures need to change, what obstacles, perhaps related to transportation or food service or classroom configuration or a cafeteria configuration, all those things. Whenever we pivot, we run into obstacles and we run into challenges, and we have to address them. Bringing kids back in gradually helps us to do that, and sort of deal with those problems in real time as we bring more and more kids back. And it also informs additional mitigation, which I sort of referenced that. It just informs us in terms of what could we be doing differently, what could we do better in terms of providing mitigation. We do feel like, and it's proven through our data, that the mitigation strategies in our schools do work, and they've been successful. So what will instruction look like? Well, in person, new instruction will be 4 days a week, as I mentioned. So no more A groups or B groups. It's just everyone comes to school, and on those dates and according to grade levels, beginning in the 15th. If we go pre-K through 5, they all come beginning March 15th. They're asynchronous on Wednesdays, and they come back Thursday and Friday. So that will be in person, and that will be all students. We strongly encourage all students to join us for 4 days of in-person learning. Let me repeat that, we strongly encourage all students to return to us for in-person instruction as grade levels are added. We feel like this is incredibly important for kids. It's an opportunity for those kids to reconnect with their peers. It's an opportunity for those kids to work directly in a more robust way with their teachers. I think it's ultimately will be good for student mental health. And a very large piece of this is it will allow us to begin the assessment of student learning loss sooner rather than later and in a more meaningful way. In other words, we get kids back, we're excited to have them back, we need to figure out what their needs are, what learning loss occurred. We do that through assessment, and it's much more meaningful for that to occur face-to-face with students, with teacher interaction, and with ongoing formative and summative assessment. There's lots of ways to assess student learning. Some is informal, some is very formal, some is formative, some is summative. But we need to do that. We need to start that as soon as possible to prepare for our summer learning program, and then potentially for changes in our instructional program in the next fall of 21, because it's going to be very hard, as I've mentioned. It's going to be difficult, but we can do it. But we need to figure out what kids have lost and get them back to where they need to be. One more thing, and I'm going to be wrapping this up shortly, I promise. Um, we understand that there's going to be some students whose parents or who choose to remain virtual. We get that, but we've got to be very honest and very realistic about what's going to happen moving forward. And I'll explain what I mean. If we have the lion's share of our students returning, let's say on March 15th, um, that's going to take much more of teachers' time. It's going to mean more kids in the teacher's classroom face to face. It's going to be much more difficult for teachers to simultaneously be providing face-to-face instruction and virtual instruction at the same time. It's very difficult now. It's perhaps the hardest things our teachers have had to do. It's very difficult, and it's going to be even more difficult as more and more students return. I'm telling you all that to say this. While we intend to provide that virtual option, it may not be as robust as it has been because for lots of reasons logistically, but it just may not be as robust a virtual option as it has been. That's another reason why we want to keep Wednesdays asynchronous days, so that teachers whose time is going to be wrapped up Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday have an opportunity on Wednesdays to reach out to students who remain all virtual. We really need kids back in the building. We want kids back, but we get that there's going to be some students who are going to remain all virtual. Now, I've said a couple different times, talked about could be pre-K through 2 or pre-K through 5. We're going to know this soon. I don't want people to panic. We're going to know soon, but it's going to have to happen after we do the surveying. The goal is to bring back pre-K through 5. That is my goal. That's the goal I share with the school board. But we've got to survey first to make sure that logistically it's possible to do that. We think it is, but I don't want to make a promise to you that I can't keep. So we need to survey first, determine if it's possible to do that. We think it probably is, but we're going to survey first, and then we will let folks know as soon as we make that determination. And then moving forward, just as a reminder, if we start on the 15th, which is likely where we're going, that means March 12th would be an asynchronous day, and potentially March 26th could be an asynchronous day, but we may also look at making April 5th an asynchronous day instead of March 26th. But just be patient. We will figure that piece out. Mitigation strategies, of course, are going to have to change. We couldn't do any of this. We couldn't stick to the sort of the 6-foot gold standard mitigation strategy and still make this happen. It's just not possible. So CDC says, 6 foot's the gold standard, but 3 feet is acceptable as long as students are wearing masks, washing hands, and watching their distances. So that's a big piece of the puzzle. It's likely that we will instead of using 6 foot, we'll be using 3 foot. That'll impact obviously how the school is configured. It's going to mean that we'll have to resubmit to the state our plan. It'll include informing the state that we intend to put two students in a seat on buses, which again that's the only way we're going to make this work. Require masks on the buses, 2 to a seat, facing forward, etc. And we're also going to be reminding and sending out reminders and encouragements to use those system checkers, parents and staff. And if folks are sick, stay home. None of that piece is going to change at all. So what are the next steps? This is the last part. Next steps, we're going to send out a survey Friday and indicate intentions. In other words, do you plan to return your child to school in a face-to-face model on March 15th or April 5th? Do you plan to stay all virtual? Do you need transportation? It's kind of those same questions that we've been asking, but we have to do it again. I know you're being surveyed to death, and I apologize, but we've got to do it again. There'll be a phone call going out Friday afternoon to remind folks about the survey. The survey will be open Friday February 12th through Sunday, February 21st. Please, we need full participation. We need to at least have 80% of our folks complete that survey, and 100% if at all possible. It's extremely important. And we'll be providing additional information on our website, and we'll be providing an additional FAQ page related to this next pivot. Okay, so we have different FAQ pages, but we're going to add another one related to what we're getting ready to do now. Communication will also be sent to families who have left FCPS but who would like to enroll. We'll be providing them with an opportunity to re-enroll. And last but not least, we'll be reaching out to staff to get their input about how best to move forward with 4 days of in-person instruction. So stay tuned, more information to come. Survey's coming out tomorrow. Very important that you complete the survey. Again, you're surveyed to death, I get that, but this is crucial as we move and plan forward. But more than anything, we want kids back. We want all of our kids back. And if you've unenrolled your child or know folks who've unenrolled their child for various reasons, we want those kids to re-enroll. So more information coming, but the question about pre-K through 2 versus pre-K through 5, we will answer that question as soon as we can. I think we will be able to do pre-K through 5, but I don't want to make that promise unless I'm certain that we can pull it off. So I hope this has been helpful, and please stay safe.